Welcome back to the Friday 13th YouTube channel, Metalheads. If you're a fan of progressive metal, this is a great interview for you. This is with German progressive band Ivanhoe. Now, I've just spoken to guitarist Chris Lorey. Thanks, Chris, for the interview. They've just released their new album, Healed by the Sun, on Massacre Records. Check it out, Metalheads. Please subscribe, please leave comments, and share on social media. Thanks for watching.
It's nice to meet you. How are you?
How are you, man? How are you? Thanks for doing this interview. Good. Yeah, great. Nice to finally meet you and talk to you. How's things today with you?
Pretty busy.
Right. Okay.
It's pretty rough right now. I just talked to my wife. She's like, "How many interviews you gonna have?" And I don't know, because I'm promoting two bands, right? Because both of my bands are releasing right now, so there's quite some. I like your backdrop, actually.
Yeah, well, it gets better. It gets better. All right, Chris. So I'm gonna welcome you to Friday 13th YouTube channel. This is the first interview we've done. I have reviewed your albums in the past, as you may have seen. I'm not sure, but Friday 13th has been around now since 1988 as a fanzine.
Wow.
So I've been around for 36 years, my friend, and still going.
That's pretty impressive.
So I'm going to ask you some warm-up questions then, Chris. As a guitar player, what age did you learn to play guitar? What influences do you have? Who inspired you?
I started playing guitar with, I think, 9, and I started to learn classic guitar, actually. And coming into, the rebellion time with 13, 14, I started to explore electric guitar. And then finally, my parents had mercy and sent me to an electric guitar teacher. And I think that was the phase where I started with Guns N' Roses and Metallica. I think back in the day, my school was pretty much divided in those who listened to the Black Album and those who listened to Use Illusion 1 and 2. And so I would say that Slash was probably a major influence to me. And then later, when a friend of mine showed me more progressive stuff like Fates Warning, Conception, Dream Theater, Queensryche, then I would say that probably John Petrucci was the biggest influence in terms of his discipline and, the way he drafts music and his thinking about gear and all that really inspired me a lot. And that was probably the time where I started to play a lot, coming home from school and then just fiddling around and learning stuff and listening to stuff and hearing new material, and went to summer music schools all over the place. So that was probably starting with 16, I would say.
Okay, then. So you mentioned Fates Warning. Was Jim Matthias a big inspiration to you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Fates Warning, I think, through the Parallels, or was it the Exit? No, it wasn't No Exit, or I think Parallels was the album that I first got into. And then, of course, Monuments, awesome album, Pleasant Shade of Grey, all that stuff. And then with Dream Theater, I came into Images and Words, which I still believe up until today is probably the best album I ever heard. Because in a way that you listen to Images and Words for probably 1,000 times, and you listen to it for the 1,001st time, you still hear something that you didn't hear before, So it's like, it's the best bang for the buck, let's put it this way.
I actually like the first album. I actually like the first album.
Oh, yeah.
When Dream Unite.
When Dream Unite. Oh, man, that was on heavy rotation for a while. Seriously. Yeah, that's an awesome album. I left the Dream Theater camp a little bit, when they went too much, for me, at least from my take. And again, that's like blaspheming what I'm telling here. But, the first, I would say, like 6 albums, they were more about the song than about the technique. And then at some point, at least for my taste, they switched a lot into technical aspects. And then, I'm more back into the song. If you need to make a message in a song, it should come across within the first 5 minutes, and otherwise, so I think there's a band from Norway, Circus Maximus. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah, I know those guys. And Pagan's Mind, I know those guys too.
And Circus Maximus really showed me like what I was into, that, like, I think it was the Isolated album, which I really dig. Evegrey is a band that I totally love, the first, like, the Inner Circle, Master Plan, awesome albums. Yeah, so that I would say is my range of hard rock and metal music, I'd say.
Yeah. With you coming from Germany, one of my favorite bands, you may know them, Psychotic Waltz. Do you know those guys?
Sorry again,
Psychotic Waltz.
but they're not from Germany.
No, no, you're coming from Germany. You must be influenced by Psychotic Waltz because they used to play
Oh,
Germany quite a
absolutely,
lot.
absolutely, absolutely. I think I have a wall here with my tickets, and I think I saw Psychotic Waltz 4 or 5 times, and
What
I
was?
saw them on the reunion tour. They were touring with Nevermore and Symphony X, I believe,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
10 years ago. I like Into the Everflow is still one of my favorite albums.
yeah.
Um, and what was the first one? The Social Grace was an
That's my
awesome
favorite album. For Social Grace is just so
Social Grace.
unique.
Like, I remember, it's such. I think I covered Remember when I was back in my school days. I was playing the school band and we covered that because we had this guy playing a flute. So we
Yeah,
covered I Remember.
awesome.
Um, and then, of course, a band that I saw probably like 8 or 9 times was Threshold, and I think they're touring again in Germany in October, I believe.
Awesome.
And yeah,
So moving on then, Chris. I mean, what was the
sure.
very first band when you was in before Ivanhoe? Did you record any albums?
I think yeah I think I had my first band with around 11 I would say so we were like covering in school and stuff playing Guns N' Roses tunes on school fests and harassing everyone and I think the first real serious one was Scenes and re-recorded an album in 2005 I believe it was released through Escapi.
Oh, I've got that
And
album. It's a really, really good album.
oh, you have the
Yeah,
album?
it's brilliant. Why did you break up? It's such a fantastic album.
Good. I know. And
It's one of my
it was
favorites. One of my favorites.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Actually, the first album, there were some issues with distribution and record label. You know, and we were so convinced about the album. We were so sure that would be really a cool album and it would sell or at least would get the attention that we thought it deserved. And when it didn't really, there was like that little scar in the band of those who said like, okay, it didn't work, so let's try again with the second album. And then the other ones who were like, yeah, we tried, let's take it as a hobby or something. And at the end, we split up. I had a health issue coming up that I needed to take care of, which took a while. And then I think we pretty much split up when we started the recordings of the second album. So there's a complete second Scenes album that's still somewhere on a hard drive here,
Man, you
which
need to release it, Chris. Please get it released. I'd love to hear it.
yeah, tell my buddies, I will show them the interview and then maybe we'll do because some of those tunes are really awesome and I really dig them. And I think the second one would have been a little harder than the first one, I guess. But there are some pretty cool tunes would have been on there. So yeah, maybe one day. Yeah, but
So
it's great to have it. Thank you so much. That's
you're
really
welcome.
awesome.
I actually reviewed it for you. It's on my website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have to send
Wow.
you the link. But going back to Ivanhoe, Chris, I mean, when
Yeah,
did you actually join the band? Because the first three albums are really good albums. They're very Marillion Dream Theater inspired. But
yeah.
Andy Frank wasn't really. I remember interviewing him, and he said to me that he wasn't really into the band's music, so he left. He joined Brainstorm, and I think his vocals are more suited to Brainstorm than they were with Ivanhoe.
I actually think so too. I know the band for ages, so I was actually hanging around with them a lot during the Symbols of Time. Actually, I applied as a guitar player to them for the Symbols of Time tour,
Right.
and they were pretty big here. I mean, that was the early mid '90s, and they really caught a lot of attention. And so I applied with them, and then they took another guy because I was 17. My dad drove me to their rehearsals. And but I was hanging around with them. I was actually touring with them as a technician, and so I learned a lot of the industry through them. And I always kept in touch with Giovanni, who was like the mastermind of the band, and we were always, stayed in contact. And then when I played with Scenes, we played together a couple of shows like Ivanhoe and Scenes, and so we always stayed in contact. And over the course of the last 10 years, he called me, I think, twice and asked if I would like to join. And that was the time of the Systematrix album, which it's a musically it's a super complicated album.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that album because it is, for me personally, probably my least favorite album because it's a very dark, strange album.
Oh yeah.
It's the hardest album to get into by Ivanhoe for
Oh,
definite.
absolutely, by far. And so I was not, convinced and this and that. And then Giovanni called me again during the first COVID lockdown and said, dude, maybe you want to join, maybe this works. And I was like, you know what? Why not? Because we cannot play within the next couple of months anyway. So I have all the time I need to get into all 8 albums because I had like so many predecessors in this band, with so many guitarists bringing in their own style and their own technique and tunes and whatnot. So I thought, like, since it's COVID and we cannot really play for the time being, I have all the time I need to really get into the material. And I thought, okay, let's do this. And the second cool part for me was that the second one was that I could start writing with them from the get-go because Blood and Gold was out. We couldn't tour. So we started writing a new album. And since I know the band for ages, Giovanni and I had a very good understanding about the vision, what Healed by the Sun should be like in a way. And so we started writing from the get-go, and it felt very, very comfortable. Also playing the old songs because I used to play those songs as a kid, when they were touring. So going back into Symbols of Time and Silent Ceremony and Lone Lies from Polarized, those were songs I really liked to play. And I also told him, because when I joined the band, the set list for live was very much focusing on the newer material. And I said, you know what, the first 3 albums are the ones that really defined Ivanhoe as a band and as a character. So we should play more of these tunes and put them back to the set list. And I think today, now when we play live, we really have a set list that's reflecting the complete range of all eight albums,
Yeah,
or 9
congratulations.
from next month on.
Okay, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Genevieve is the only original member. Why did all the other guys leave? Why did they, you know, break up?
Um, I don't know. It's very weird that in Ivanhoe, I think, except of Giovanni, there are no 2 albums with the exact same lineup. So to be honest with you, I can't really tell you. I think is what I think is that, it's complicated music and writing process. You have some like, sometimes it's like family. Sometimes you fight and sometimes you love each other. And I think that this maybe caused a lot of lineup changes in a way. Um, on the other hand, it makes the band extremely interesting because over the course of 8 albums, there's really a lot happening. It's not like an AC/DC album, which you know exactly what to expect.
Pretty boring music, AC/DC, if you don't mind me saying.
So, so I think, it's a fine line of keeping the heritage of Ivanhoe and do something new and, bringing in your own stuff and your own ideas into the band. So, yeah, I don't know exactly why the lineup changes are happening all the time, but probably it's just part of the DNA of the band, I guess.
So when you look back at all the previous albums before you joined the band, which ones are your favorite out of the first 5 albums? I'd have to excuse me with the wings behind me. I didn't mean to have
Yeah,
big butterfly wings. I feel like I'm flying.
like an angel.
Yeah, I'm flying.
I would say my favorite one is Polarized.
Right, okay.
I love Lone Lies. I think Hollow is an awesome tune. I have no idea how often I heard this. Sunlight. There are a lot of great tunes on that album. That the second one, I was hesitating a little because I think Symbols of Time is really, I love the Symbols of Time songs. Maybe it's because I learned them when I applied for them as a guitarist when I was like 16, 17. But a lot of the songs from both Symbols of Time and Polarized are very well drafted and very well written, in my opinion.
If you had to re-record the first 3 albums with the current singer, would you do it? Would you think that's a good idea? Because I think, like I said to you earlier, Andy wasn't comfortable singing the progressive rock songs.
To be honest, and I don't want to blame Andy or say anything bad about Andy, I'd say I would definitely record the first 2 with Alex.
Yeah.
I think Andy did a tremendous job on Polarized. I think that's probably his best performance for Ivanhoe. But especially the first two albums, if I would have the chance and would have the time and the budget and whatnot, and we would re-record the first two albums with Alex, I definitely would probably do Visions and Symbols. Yeah.
Okay, then, because after Andy left, you got Misha as a singer. Where did you find Misha? What band was he in before Ivanhoe?
Was in before, I have no idea where he was before. I think he's an educated musical singer, and he's actually from Berlin, and he's doing some like German speaking or German singing band now in Berlin. I think he's also still doing musicals, and I think it was more a time and logistical issue that he left the band because of, the band was here in Stuttgart and he was in Berlin, and how you're gonna work this out, and I mean, that Alex was the former singer of Scenes, so
Right.
when Alex joined there, um, it was funny that they called me, said like, if I want to join, because sometimes we make fun of this, when we're like in the rehearsal room, it's we call us like the Scenes fraction, and
Do,
make fun of old times and whatnot,
do you know something, actually, Chris? I actually interviewed you guys from my website.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
For
I'll have to. I'll
Scenes?
have to. Yeah, I'll have to send you the link. I'm thinking about it now. I'm pretty 99% sure I've done an interview with you guys back in the day.
Wow. If you find that again, I would be super interested to
Yeah,
get
just
through this.
share it if you can, please. But I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
like I say, Misha had a really good voice, very similar to Alex, wasn't he? They're very similar in style. So I can understand. I
Yeah.
can understand why he decided to pick Alex as the next singer.
I don't know, but I wasn't with the band by that time, maybe it was personal issues, but I think to me it sounded more like it was a lot of logistic issues, and since Alex was free after Scene split up, it made total sense that he joined them, and I think it's now the fourth album that he's doing with them, right? He joined into Systematrix. No, Systematrix was still Misha.
Yeah,
He started with 7 Days exactly,
yeah. I mean,
and
Seven Days is a great album as well.
yeah, absolutely. I love we play Dancing with a Ghost from that album, and
Right.
it's a great album. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you've not been in the band for very long, have you, Chris?
No, I joined the band in 2020. I joined them right after Blood and Gold came out.
Right.
But I know them for ages. So as I said, we were touring together, we were playing together. So I know the band and the style and all the internals of the band for quite some time, but I didn't join them as a guitar player until 2020.
No, that's interesting. So, how do you see each previous album as a progression up until the new album?
Um, I think there are different phases in Ivanhoe. I think the first three albums were very much written as a band, and then when it came to Walk in Mindfields, I think that it was more of a group of Achim, the guitar player back then, and Giovanni, because they had another project in between, which was called Charisma
Oh
with a
yeah,
female.
yeah. That's with Chitty on vocal. Was it? No,
Exactly. No, it's with a female. It's a
that's
female
right. Because
singer.
it was they were doing like kind of Ivanhoe songs, wasn't they?
It sounded like I don't know because
Yeah.
I think back in the day when they split with Andy, there was some legal issue about the naming, so they brought out one album as Charisma with
On
another
Massacre
female
Records. On Massacre
through
Records.
Massacre Records.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got it.
So and then I think Systematrix was an album which was pretty much composed solely by Giovanni.
Right.
And you hear that totally because Giovanni is very into that rhythmic, odd time signatures and really, fancy, really like Giovanni doesn't care about the commercial success of an album a lot. He has a rhythm in mind, and that's what he's following. And that's why I think Systematics and also maybe parts of 7 Days are not really approachable by the first listen. So from the more good moods of the first three albums, you had some kind of a curve, and then Systematrix was really dark and progressive and jazzy almost. And I think we with Blood and Gold and 7 Days Blood and Gold, they went up a little bit again. I think Blood and Gold is pretty approachable. The song Blood and Gold, Midnight Bite, Broken Mirror, those are very actually approachable, almost like easy to listen progressive songs. And I think we wanted to drive that into Healed by the Sun a little bit, because I'm more the straighter guy, and Giovanni is more the progressive guy when it comes to writing. And so I think, but we both said that we want to break a bow or come back and kind of like close the circle closer to the first three albums a little bit with Healed by the Sun.
Right. So does it work well then for you? Like you being the straighter guy and Janavi being the more progressive. It seems to gel really well for you guys when listening to your music.
Well, there's always some tension, but I think you need some tension in order to really empower creativity. And I think it's funny, there's some fun moments when we write, because I write something which is more or less like pretty straightforward. And then he comes like, no, 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 we need to remove like this one tone and we add another, and it's like, no, 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 that's too much, and then we work it out. And I think when you listen to the album, it worked out pretty well. So it has this very progressive moments, and it also has songs that are much more approachable and easier to listen than stuff from, let's say, Systematrix.
I mean, when I listen to your music, as I've just sent you the review for the new album, you kind of
Yeah,
remind me of Dreamscape, another German
yeah,
band,
yeah.
Van Plast. Then you've got the Dark Waters, which I never thought of Scenes, because Scenes and Dark Water are pretty similar in style. Do you agree with the review that I gave you?
I definitely agree with the review. Thank you so much for the
You're
review.
welcome.
And
It's a great album, guys, if you're watching this, by the way.
yeah, I to be honest with you, you know, there's some old stuff going. I think there's an old rivalry, but is it called rivalry? There's an old
Yeah.
kind of like competition between Fun Blast and Ivanhoe, because I think back in the 90s they were like, both coming from Germany, both coming from southern Germany. There was some sort of like a competition. So when I was like, we had a fun situation because I'm a big fan of the God Thing from Fun Blast.
Yeah,
It's
good
one of my
album. Yeah.
favorite albums. And I mentioned that once, and he was like, "No, you can't say that in my rehearsal room." So we were making some fun about it. So I think Fun Blast is an awesome band, and they were like in the business for so long, and they're constantly, even though they're so busy with all the musicals that they do
Yeah.
in Kaiserslautern, they're still coming up and really have this brand that, whenever they bring a new album, everyone is like, whoa, cool, let's go there. And for Dreamscape, I don't really know. I mean, I was out, when Scenes broke up and before I went back to Ivanhoe, I had some off years where I didn't follow the scene here too much. And suddenly Dreamscape was gone, and I have no idea why, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. So, Chris, we're going to talk about the new album now. This one. So,
Yeah.
Healed by the Sun, fantastic
Yes.
album. You
Thank you
produced
so
this.
much.
You produced this album with Genavi, which is a
Yeah.
fantastic production. How long did
Yeah.
it take to record this album?
I would say it took almost 6 or 7 months, and or maybe even longer. But that was because I had a motorcycle accident in between, and I couldn't play guitar for almost 3 months. Because I had an issue with my shoulder, and I couldn't move my shoulder around the guitar. It was really, and that was really a bummer because we were like in the middle of the recording sessions. So I think if that would have happened, it probably would have taken like 3 months. But again, that was evenings sending back and forth, saying like, no, there's something going on there. Maybe you want to try again. So Giovanni and I, we were challenging each other quite a bit on being precise and being in time and yeah, being a little anal on little noises and whatnot. So we challenged each other quite a bit. So it took some time to record, to be honest.
Okay, then.
But yeah.
So the title of the album, "Healed by the Sun," was that
Yeah.
related to your accident, or was it something? Does it mean something else?
I think that we wrote the song "Healed by the Sun" pretty early on, and I think that was the first song or the song where really the complete band cooperated as a complete pack, And when we kept on writing the album, we thought that Healed by the Sun would make an awesome title track, And Micha at some point said, like, I have an idea for a cover, and he wanted to use AI for the cover artwork, and because he was into AI quite a bit before, and I think he was the first one, using ChatGPT and going all into that stuff. And he came up with some ideas for a cover artwork, and we're like blown away and thought like this would be pretty cool, So and also from the lyrical standpoint of the complete album, the issues that we talk about on the album lyrically, it made sense because we wanted to have that Healed by the Sun. You go outside again, the lockdown is over. We have songs about COVID. We have songs about about war, which are now even more up to date after the Ukraine thing. And so people want to get out again, and they want to celebrate and enjoy their lives again and be in the sun. So it has some sort of a healing process, considering the topics of the album that we write about. So I think it's a pretty good match for describing the overall album.
So did you have any other titles?
Sorry?
Did you have any other titles?
You mean before we decided on Healed by the
Sun?
Sun?
The album,
no. That was, no, we actually had pretty early, and we knew that the album title would be Healed by the Sun.
So what's your favorite songs, Chris, from the new album? Because every song's fantastic. I mean, you've got 2 bonus tracks. One of the bonus tracks is number 8, right in the middle of the album. Then you've got a re-recorded Awaiting Judgment Day. So why did you decide to put a bonus song right in the middle of the album?
I think it had more to do with the natural time issues that you have on vinyl, So I think if pictures in my mind would have been fit on the LP, we would have done it on the LP and only do Awaiting Judgment Day on the as a bonus track. So with Awaiting Judgment Day, Giovanni he said that he had this old song on one of his demos and he desperately wanted to have it on the album. And the idea was to have it in the original lineup. So he wanted to have all the people who were back in the day part of the band, he wanted to have on that particular song. And unfortunately, it worked almost. It didn't work, unfortunately, because we couldn't get in touch with Scott Anderson, who was the singer back in the day. And so everyone else was on board, and we couldn't find Scott Anderson. And we came to the rehearsal room one day, and our drummer at that time, Micha, he was singing the song in the rehearsal room. And we were like, "Oh, that sounds pretty awesome." So it turned out that he was singing the song. So that's for the bonus track. My favorite tune is probably next to Healed by the Sun. It would be probably Broken Illusions. Because it's the first time that we really worked on a like progressive middle part, and has some weird guitar solo sounds that I really had to dial in a little bit, So I think that one, and obviously the first single, Ticket to Paradise.
That's the one, the video. Is that the one you did the video for?
Yeah.
That's kind of strange because you've got a lot of young kids in the audience, and they kind of don't look like they're into progressive metal. They're kind of just headbanging. But you know what I'm saying?
Well, fans are fans, right?
Is it family and friends that are in the video? Is it?
It's both. It's fans and friends and family, because we didn't want to have I actually asked, like, should we write it officially on our Facebook site that we look for people for the video, and there was a little bit of concerns because we don't want to publicly mention somewhere where our rehearsal room is, so. So it was like fans we knew and friends and family. So it was a mixture of those. But we didn't want to write on our website like, yeah, come here on Sunday, and because we knew that we would shoot the video in our rehearsal room, and we just didn't want to tell everybody and their grandmother where our rehearsal room is. Okay. And then Moments of Time is a song that I'm pretty proud of. So I think it's a good mixture on the album of harder and softer songs. So I'm actually quite proud of the whole album.
So what sort of reviews have you been getting so far from the press?
So far, we are actually extremely excited, because what I really like is not everyone likes the same songs, So Some mention Headnut and Invictus to be the best songs, and then others say Small Path Home and 10C. And then I read another review which said like Healed by the Sun and Ticket to Paradise. So I think that tells me that there's something on there for everybody, and there are no fillers, and that gives me a very good feeling about the album.
Excellent. So when do you think you guys are going to be touring? Are you going to be? You've actually never actually played the UK, have you? As far as I'm aware.
It's a shame, isn't it? With I think back in the day with Scenes, we were almost to tour with I think Testament in the UK.
Really?
No.
Testament and Scenes? That kind of didn't go
Yeah,
well.
that was fun. That was a fun thing. Yeah, but it was canceled the last day or something. But there were a bunch of shows where Scenes could have opened for Testament in the UK.
That would have been kind of, I don't know if that would have gone down so well with you guys playing progressive. I think a lot of the fans might have been.
Well, depends on which album, if they take the older stuff or if they take the Ritual, for example. I think with the Ritual, it could have probably worked. But yeah. Now, with touring, I mean, when it comes to touring, I'm there. Just give me a call. I'm serious, So we are super excited about the album. We definitely want to present it live as soon as possible. We definitely want to go out there and show this on stage. We are very enthusiastic about the album. And now we just got to see what's feasible and what's possible. I mean, the touring industry to me after COVID sounds even more awkward than before. The prices are high, the tour costs are incredible. I have we're friends with Workings, and they just were touring, and the amount of money they just paid for the tour bus is just insane. So I think it all comes down to the opportunity. If we can jump on a tour, or someone is willing to contribute or support us with making this financially feasible, we would be in the UK any day.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of playing the Prog Power Festival in America?
It's on my bucket list, to be honest. If you have a good contact there, I owe you a major stake there, because I was on Prog Power 2 as a guest, because back in the day I lived in the US, and I was on Prog Power 2, and I was even in contact with them for a while back in the day for Scenes, and then I lost total contact with them. And Prog Power USA, have you been there?
Oh, not yet.
Because it's in that kind of like almost like amphitheater-esque.
Yeah, I've seen building. It. Yeah.
And all the bands are there. So the bands are not in the backstage area. The bands are up front. The fans are up front. Then you have the vendors up front. So it's like a big party, which is outside the main concert hall.
Right.
And all the bands and the fans are sleeping in the same hotel right next to it. So it's just a huge party. And it's fantastically organized and set up. At least back in the day, as I said, I haven't been there in like 20 years, But that's definitely on my bucket list. And I think with Ivanhoe and that album, I would be very, very happy and excited if there would be a chance to play Prog Power USA.
Okay, well, Chris, I want to thank you for doing this interview. Do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube?
First of all, thank you for watching. Thanks for supporting us, supporting the channel, and yeah, give us a listen, write us a comment, and it would be great to see someone out there for a show in the next couple of months. And yeah, thank you for the recognition and the attention on the album.
Thanks, Chris. Cheers, Chris. Keep in touch, brother.
Have a great
Take
evening.
care.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
with the Thank
Cheers,
you.
brother.
Take care.
Bye-bye.